Hi everyone, my name is Danyale Dockery. I am presenting on the Gildan Age, and I will inform you guys on how the Gildan Age has um, altered the impact of our future or our present. I'll tell you guys how the Gildan Age went from the 1870s until the 1900s and how it is still relevant to today. So, some of my main objectives are to explain how historians employed ideas of class and historical analysis, as well as employ Marxism historical class theory and analyze the historical events. I will also describe the role of class by driving history and social change. So what is the Gilded Age? The Gilded Age is an era that arose from the 1870s to the 1900s, as stated before. You found it predominantly in the Northeast and in the western parts of the United States. It was the age of where old money competed with new money. Old money is money that is from centuries before, like generational wealth. Um, Centuries before, where people sold spices, sold furs, sold a lot of profitable commodities. New money is where you find people where they are inventors, investors, or a lot of self-made people in this era. In this era, money also grew rapidly. And I don't say that statement light at all because you will, as I will continue to explain throughout this presentation, you will see how money became the root of all evil, but it made people super wealthy during this time. So I put in the image of a HBO special, and it's called The Gilded Age. It is really, really good. The woman on wearing the green, she's from the age of new money, and the woman wearing the burgundy is from the age of old money. It's a highly recommended show. I would highly suggest you guys to watch it. So historians have employed ideas of class in a historical analysis. You see ideas where people are split up, and based on their categories, they find themselves also in finding themselves in like a gender battle as well as a class battle. And it's constantly battling themselves in whatever economic bracket that they may see before them. So, gender as well as class played a critical role in the concept. The bourgeoisie was a combination of black and white people. Yes, black and white people. But it was typically men because men ran the household. Men were the only ones who were able to vote, and they were a lot of the sole providers for like the work that is being found. Key players in this era is John D. Rockefeller. He was a businessman. He made a lot of his deals in oil. Andrew Carnegie, he did a lot of his deals in steel and bills and steel, deals. Okay, I'm getting myself all mixed up. And many nameless men just did a lot of ruthless business deals because that was the era, that was the time to do it. So from this investment, middle class, the sorry, from this era, the middle class expanded. The middle class expanded profoundly within, and people found a multitude of things to do with their money and time. So let me break it down to you how these people actually got their money, like actually became very wealthy in a short period of time. So you see these a group of four black men dressed in stripes, and it says community service. Well, to the wealthy upper class, it's community service. But let me put it in better context for you. So I told you the Gildan Age became about in 1870, right? Well, the 13th Amendment also passed abolishing slavery in 1865. Okay. So black people were walking around, la di da di da di, trying to find their way in America, but America also created laws that says if you are walking around, you have to have an ID or you're considered a fugitive. So to get an ID, you must have what? Think about now. What must you have on your ID? You have to have an address. You have to have money to pay. And I think there's something else, but just think about things that you're supposed to have when you go get an ID. So even if you, oh, a job, a job. Yeah, you cannot just be walking around. And this was the era where school wasn't really mandatory. Like it wasn't a really big thing for you to have an education. It just wasn't. So if you didn't have your ID, you had no money, you had no job, you're considered a fugitive. And guess what? You're going to prison just because you're going to prison. So these people then go to prison. And in prison, a lot of people in prison now do community service, right? Well, at the time, there weren't no labor laws. So if you had no labor laws, therefore, you can tell somebody, hey, get up 5 o'clock in the morning, go to the field, and do what it is that you need to do until 8, 9 o'clock at night. So you're seeing the sun rise and go down. Well, it's not new to them because they're just coming out of slavery themselves. So even if you were to take this person doing community service and then put them somewhere where they're needed, on railroads, factories, wherever, but you deny them basic rights: food, water, shelter. If you deny all of these people these three things, they're gonna start dying. Well, that solved their problem for the African American community, right? We see how that turned out. So in the middle, you see January 25th, 1875, the Great Railroad Strike. This was the time when America was facing a depression. Wage workers, excuse me, wage workers were averaging about $1, $1 per day, as well as they worked about 3 days. So as I said before, there weren't no labor laws. So if you work that, basically you get $3 a day. Well, during the depression in Baltimore and Ohio, um, owners thought it was feasible to cut their workers' pay short. Instead of taking money out of their pocket, they decided to take money out of their workers' pockets. And so they cut their pay by 10 cents. Well, if you cut their pay by 10 cents, then they have 90 cents. And you cut their days from 3 days to 2 days. What does that essentially say? We're going on strike. Because how can you work for $1.80 a week when you're typically going to $3? You just cut the pay in half, literally. So they went on strike, and when they went on strike, what happened was that this strike had been going on for a month long. If the strike goes on for a month long, then they bring in the governors tried to shut it down, National Guards tried to shut it down, police officers, local police officers, and it goes on for a month long and it expands. Well, What happened at the end of this strike was it it was all for nothing, because what happened was many of these people ended up dying fighting for their rights. Many people became incarcerated fighting for their rights, and many people's job was um, replaced fighting for their rights, fighting for their rights, right? So they were replaced with temporary workers, sucked, which sucked. I can't, can you imagine that? And then you go on to January 1882, where Congress passed the Chinese Exclusion Act, where Chinese people had once been accepted into America, and during the gold rush where they were seen as valuable workers, and now they're not even wanted, because Chinese people were building their own communities and they were willing to work. The white people felt that they were not only inferior, but they felt that they were taking their jobs away from them. So they decided to put pass a law that says Chinese people are excluded from America, as well as you cannot leave this country unless you receive proper paperwork that says you're coming back. Well, if you can't receive proper paperwork that says you're coming back, I guess you're just stuck, right? Right. And they put Chinese people into a tiny little box and tried to package them away. That's what the Gildan Age is doing to people. As I stated before, there are poor working conditions. Poor working conditions in mining, farming, and factories. These are children that you see before you. Children. The labor laws were zero. Zero. Because there is no way. Can you imagine your children working from sunup to sundown in a factory? And they look like they're about no older than the age of 10. So people were sold on the American dream. I don't know if you guys are sold on it. I don't know if you guys are still anxious for the American dream or not, but people relocated to America for this American dream. The dream was sold that no matter your income, race, ethnicity, your gender, whomever, everyone has the opportunity to achieve the American dream. And that is where you receive people from all nationalities and all walks of life coming to America. And then when they get to America, if they're not the right skin color, if they don't talk in the proper way, if they don't um if they don't have the same views or ideas, they're not going to succeed in America, because America is self-centered and they only want a certain face in their society. So they blocked off certain jobs, certain housing, as well as just everyday life. I can't imagine. The violence in this age is ridiculous. As I just stated, they only wanted a certain group of people. So as I told you before, African American people weren't safe. Chinese people weren't safe. And I'm sure that I'm missing a lot of people who weren't safe. And there weren't laws against that says you can't kill someone in broad daylight. You can't kill someone at night. You can't drag them out of their home to kill them. There are no laws that says this right now. So It's going crazy. You're selling people on the American dream and then coming over here and having to protect themselves from lynch mobs. And the police force is being cultivated where they are chasing people who they say are fugitives by law. Think about it. So segregation in the Gildan Age, they say separate but equal. But it's never separate. No, excuse me. It's always separate, but it's never equal. So communities had to bind together based on their own nationalities and race. And it's almost like a bittersweet because you come to America for a better opportunity. You come to America for the American dream. You come to America to receive jobs and income, and you think you're going to be welcome and accepted, but you're treated different because you look different. You sound different. You talk different. Well, in 1896, it was put into law. We're Plessy versus Ferguson. And the law simply states, specifically, black and white people are to be separated, but to have equal protection under the law, which goes for all race and nationalities. Everyone is separate. People actually did create their own communities out of this. They created their own high schools, their own colleges. That's where you get a lot of the HBCUs. You also people had their own teachers, doctors, lawyers, accountants. Come on now. This time period did have a lot of flaws, and Marxism does explain how this time period was based on the economic class and how class then kind of dictates people's lives. It dictates people's livelihoods, literally, based on where you're going to live, based on what type of job you get. The rich always dominated. Sort of, kind of. Always. Kind of. But nonetheless, the Gilded Age did set the standard for a lot of what we see in America today. We see people fighting for basic things, basic human rights. Still, you see the rich getting richer and you see the poor getting poorer because America doesn't do anything to help lower that wage gap. Or there's enough money in this country that everyone can have a substantial lifestyle if they so choose. But the thing is, how easy is it to get it? So if the Gilded Age didn't teach you anything, let it teach you that class is important. Marxism is important to learn. And if you learn your history, you then can progress forward. Here are some references that you guys can take a look at. But other than that, I hope you guys have a great day. I hope you enjoyed the lesson. Bye.